Did you know that the whole world is in debt? I'm sure most of you have. But the question is, who the world owe this debt to? Who was the one gave debt to the whole world and now the global debt is in trillions of dollars? Well, this is the question only economists can answer, but in this video we are going to consider some of the aspects of this question and we'll figure out how this can be answered and how and why the world is in debt. Please be noted that we are not talking about one single country or a state in this video, but about all of us in global scale. Which means in this video, whenever I use the word we, that means we as humans as a global team. Let's start with an example. Let's say there are three countries in the world. Country A has had a debt of $5 as well as the country B and C. Then the world has the debt of $15 in total, right? Which seems impossible. You would ask how? Let me ask you this, who has the $15? Let's try to answer the big guy. Even though all of the governments are in debt, but not to anyone else, but to each other. Now you got to understand the factors here, which we'll discuss later in this video. But for now, most people would say why governments don't just go and pay their debt back and debt will go away. But that is both impossible and impractical at the same time. One of the biggest factor is interest when we talk about debt because interest brings more money out of nowhere. And for the most part, you guys should be clear on this that the countries do not owe each other but their citizens and banks. Matter of the fact is, banks and people have the money and government itself is in debt. Now I said that paying debt back is impossible and impractical on the same time on the global scale. Here is why I said it. Let's assume I take $5 from Kyle and then I go ahead and loan those $5 to Daniel. And after knowing that Kyle gave me $5, he gave Kyle those $5 not as a sympathy but loan him again that when Kyle gets his money back from me, he can pay him back. In total, we have a debt of $15 between the three of us, but only $5 exists. And if you keep following the previous circle between the three of us, all the debt is paid with a single $5 bill. Now make it countries, make it millions and billions of dollars, and the biggest factor interest comes in, which basically destabilizes the equation. But oftentimes interest can be paid in different ways. For example, recently North Korea cut a deal with Cuba to upgrade their missiles in exchange for 200,000 bags of sugar. Military favors, let me build a navy base on your coast and we can forgive some of the debt. Political favors like vote this way in the United Nations on this topic, make a good speech, or let your airline company buy this batch of airplanes from this company. All this happens under our noses and we think governments play with money. They do not. They play with debt and interest. And interest can be most wealthiest asset, but again, ethically and morally, not a good one. And it gets a lot more complicated than this. And governments can print more money, we always have that option, but that creates inflation, where each dollar is worth less the more of them there are. The more dollars you print through, the less gold each individual dollar is worth. The problem we are basically wondering about here is the fact that money is just a symbol for work done and doesn't really act as an item in itself, and that modern money is often what's called fiat currency, which means that it's not backed by anything physical but by the entity backing its reputation. So the vast majority of money is simply recorded in ledgers as debt and credit and not actually in someone's hands in a spendable form. In fact, if everyone including governments had to pay off all their debt tomorrow, our system would crumble because there really isn't as much money as is needed to pay everyone back. To a certain extent, the global money system is a grandwise pyramid scheme like Amway. It's just that it is in nobody's best interest to have it fail. Kind of the same reasoning that the big banks used, and they were right. If the American big banks had failed, the result would have been dire. But the fact that no one was prosecuted for anything leading up to 2008 collapse shows where the real power lies in the world. At the end, I would say if a country give debt to the another country, they cannot just ask for it back at any point of time. National debt is usually in forms of bonds, which are only payable when they come due, and this helps in keeping governments and countries in cooperating mode with each other. Otherwise, considering the current economy of the world, World War III would have already happened. These were my thoughts. If you have any different perspective or thoughts on this, please share your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace.